Your mind can be your greatest enemy or your strongest weapon. The choice is yours. Introduction.
Hi, this is Dr. Julian Vance. Life will test you. It will push you to your limits, break your plans, and challenge everything you believe about yourself. Most people quit when the road gets too hard, not because they're weak, but because they've never trained their mind to keep going. Never give up. Train Your Mind is your guide to building mental strength so powerful that no obstacle can stop you. This book will show you how to fight the battles inside your head, turn failure into fuel, and create a mindset that thrives in pressure. It's not about avoiding pain or fear. It's about training your mind to rise above them. Chapter 1: The Inner Battle. Your biggest fight isn't against the world. It's against the voice inside your head telling you to quit. Learn how to recognize that voice, challenge it, and start building mental resilience from the ground up. The enemy within. Sarah stared at her laptop screen, the cursor blinking mockingly in the empty document. She had been dreaming of writing a novel for 3 years, but every time she sat down to begin, the same voice whispered in her ear, "You're not a real writer. Who are you kidding? You'll never finish this, just like everything else you've started." Sound familiar? That voice isn't unique to Sarah. It lives in every one of us. It's the internal critic, the saboteur, the part of our mind that seems determined to keep us small and safe. Understanding this voice is the first step in your journey toward unshakable mental resilience. The truth is, your biggest battles aren't fought on external battlefields. They're not against your boss, your circumstances, or even your failures. They're fought in the quiet moments when you're alone with your thoughts. When that inner voice starts its relentless campaign to convince you that you're not enough, that you should quit while you're ahead, that comfort is better than growth. This internal voice has many names: the inner critic, the resistance, the ego, or what psychologists call negative self-talk. But regardless of what you call it, its mission is always the same: to keep you exactly where you are. It disguises itself as protection, whispering that it's keeping you safe from disappointment, rejection, or failure. In reality, it's the very thing standing between you and the life you truly want. The biology of giving up. Before we can defeat this inner enemy, we need to understand where it comes from. The voice telling you to quit isn't some moral failing or character weakness. It's actually a sophisticated survival mechanism that served our ancestors well, but often works against us in modern life. Your brain is essentially a prediction machine, constantly scanning for threats and trying to keep you alive. For hundreds of thousands of years, taking unnecessary risks could mean death. The humans who survived were those who were cautious, who avoided the unknown, who stayed with the tribe rather than venturing out alone. This better safe than sorry programming is literally hardwired into your neural circuits. When you contemplate doing something challenging, starting a business, learning a new skill, having a difficult conversation, or pursuing a dream, your brain's ancient alarm system activates. It floods your system with stress hormones, creates feelings of anxiety and doubt, and generates that familiar voice telling you to back down. From your brain's perspective, it's doing its job perfectly. The amygdala, often called the brain's fear center, can't distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger and the fear of public speaking. Both trigger the same fight-flight-freeze response. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational planning part of your brain, gets hijacked by these more primitive systems. Suddenly, that business idea seems impossible, that conversation feels too risky, and quitting starts to look like the wisest option. Understanding this biological reality is crucial because it means the voice telling you to quit isn't telling you the truth about your capabilities. It's just your brain trying to keep you in your comfort zone. The feelings of fear, doubt, and uncertainty that accompany challenging endeavors aren't signs that you're on the wrong path. They're often signs that you're on exactly the right one. Recognizing the patterns. The inner critic is cunning. It doesn't always show up as an obviously negative voice shouting, "You can't do this." Instead, it's often subtle, reasonable sounding, and disguised as logic or practicality. Learning to recognize its various disguises is essential for building mental resilience. The perfectionist. This version of the inner critic convinces you that unless you can do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. It points out every flaw in your plan, every skill you haven't mastered yet, every way your effort might fall short of an impossible standard. You need to research more before you start, it says. You should wait until you're better prepared. The perfectionist keeps you in permanent preparation mode, always getting ready but never actually beginning. The catastrophizer. This voice specializes in worst-case scenarios. It takes any challenge and immediately jumps to the most extreme negative outcome. If you fail at this, you'll lose everything. People will laugh at you. You'll never recover from this mistake. The catastrophizer makes molehills into mountains and turns manageable risks into life or death situations. The comparer. This version constantly measures you against others, always finding you lacking. Look how successful she is at your age. He makes it look so easy. Everyone else seems to have it figured out. The comparer conveniently ignores the years of struggle, failure, and learning that preceded others' success, presenting you with a highlight reel and calling it reality. The historian. This voice uses your past as evidence for your future limitations. Remember when you tried this before and failed? You've never been good at things like this. You always start strong but never finish. The historian acts as if your past mistakes are permanent character traits rather than learning experiences and stepping stones. The practical advisor. Perhaps the most insidious version. This voice sounds entirely reasonable. It talks about being realistic and practical. It suggests that your dreams are nice but impractical, that you should focus on more sensible goals. It's not trying to stop you, just to redirect you towards safer, smaller versions of what you really want. The timekeeper. This voice focuses on timing, convincing you that now isn't the right time. You're too young, it says, or you're too old. You should wait until the kids are older, or you should have started this years ago. The timekeeper ensures that there's never a perfect moment to begin. Each of these voices shares a common thread. They all counsel inaction, delay, or settling for less than what you truly want. They're all variations on the same theme of don't try, don't risk, don't grow. Recognizing these patterns is the first step in learning to respond rather than react to them. The cost of surrender. What happens when we consistently listen to these voices and choose the path of least resistance? The cost is higher than most people realize, and it compounds over time like interest in reverse. The erosion of self-trust. Every time you have an impulse to try something new or challenging and then talk yourself out of it, you send yourself a subtle message. I don't trust you to handle this. Over time, these small surrenders accumulate into a profound lack of confidence in your own abilities. You start to see yourself as someone who can't be counted on, even by yourself. The shrinking life. When we consistently choose comfort over growth, our world gets smaller. We stick to what we know, avoid challenges, and gradually become prisoners of our own comfort zones. What once felt like safety begins to feel like a cage. The very thing that was supposed to protect us becomes the thing that limits us most. Regret and resentment. Perhaps the heaviest cost of consistently giving in to the inner critic is the accumulation of regret. Years pass and we look back at all the chances we didn't take, all the dreams we didn't pursue, all the conversations we didn't have. This regret often transforms into resentment toward ourselves, toward others who did take those chances, toward a world that seems to reward risk takers while we played it safe. The compound effect of small surrenders. Each time we give up on something small, it makes it easier to give up on bigger things. The muscle of perseverance, like any other muscle, weakens with disuse. What starts as avoiding a difficult conversation evolves into avoiding difficult challenges, which eventually becomes a pattern of avoiding anything that requires significant effort or risk. Lost opportunities. While we're busy talking ourselves out of action, opportunities pass by. The business that could have been started, the relationship that could have been pursued, the skill that could have been developed, these don't wait for us to overcome our fears. Life rewards action, not intention. Consider Marcus, a software engineer who dreamed of starting his own company. 4 or 5 years, his inner critic found reasons why it wasn't the right time. The market was too competitive. He needed more experience. He should save more money first. He needed to validate his idea more thoroughly. Meanwhile, 3 different companies launched products similar to his idea, each becoming successful in the market he was afraid to enter. His caution, disguised as wisdom, cost him the opportunity to build the business he'd always envisioned. The anatomy of mental resilience. Mental resilience isn't the absence of doubt, fear, or that inner critical voice. It's the ability to experience these things and choose your response rather than being controlled by them. Resilient people don't have fewer negative thoughts, they have a different relationship with those thoughts. Think of mental resilience as a muscle that can be developed through consistent training. Just as physical strength comes from progressively challenging your body, mental strength comes from progressively challenging your mind. This means deliberately putting yourself in situations where you'll encounter resistance, fear, and the voice telling you to quit, and then choosing to continue anyway. Awareness. The foundation of resilience is awareness. You can't change what you're not conscious of. Most people are so used to their inner critic that they don't even recognize it as a separate voice. They mistake its commentary for objective reality. The first step in building resilience is creating space between you and your thoughts, recognizing that the voice in your head is not you and that its opinions are not facts. Acceptance. Paradoxically, fighting against your inner critic often makes it stronger. What we resist persists. Mental resilience includes accepting that doubt, fear, and negative self-talk are natural parts of the human experience. They're not problems to be solved, but experiences to be navigated. When you stop trying to eliminate these feelings and instead learn to work with them, you reclaim your power. Response flexibility. Resilient people have multiple ways of responding to internal resistance. They don't just have one strategy for dealing with doubt or fear. They have a toolkit of approaches they can draw from depending on the situation. This flexibility comes from practice and experimentation, from trying different approaches and seeing what works. Long-term perspective. Mental resilience includes the ability to see beyond immediate discomfort to longer-term outcomes. While your inner critic focuses on avoiding short-term pain, resilience allows you to choose short-term discomfort in service of long-term growth and fulfillment. The voice versus the observer. One of the most powerful shifts in developing mental resilience is learning to distinguish between the voice and the observer. The voice is the stream of thoughts, judgments, fears, and commentary running through your mind. The observer is the part of you that can step back and watch this mental activity without being swept away by it. Imagine you're sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. The leaves represent your thoughts, some beautiful, some ugly, some neutral. You don't have to jump in the river and chase after every leaf, nor do you have to dam the river to stop the flow. You can simply sit on the bank and observe what passes by, choosing which leaves deserve your attention and which you can let float away. This observer perspective is not a philosophical concept, it's a practical skill that can be developed. When you notice the inner critic starting its familiar routine, instead of immediately believing its message or fighting against it, you can step into the observer role. I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough for this opportunity. This simple shift creates psychological distance and gives you the space to choose your response. The voice will always be there to some degree. It's part of being human. But you don't have to be at its mercy. You can acknowledge its presence while still choosing actions aligned with your values and goals rather than your fears and insecurities. Training ground, daily battles. Building mental resilience happens through consistent practice in small, daily situations. You don't wait for a major life crisis to start building physical strength, and you shouldn't wait for major challenges to start building mental strength. Every day provides numerous opportunities to practice choosing courage over comfort, growth over safety. The morning alarm, the very first moment of resistance you face each day, is often your alarm clock. Do you immediately hit snooze and give in to the desire for more comfort, or do you practice the discipline of getting up when you said you would? This small daily choice is actually training your ability to do hard things when you don't feel like it. The difficult conversation. We all have conversations we know we should have but keep postponing. These might be setting boundaries with family members, giving feedback to colleagues, or expressing our needs in relationships. Each time you choose to have the conversation instead of avoiding it, you're strengthening your resilience muscle. The creative project. Whether it's writing, painting, music, or any other creative endeavor, the act of creating something and sharing it with the world is an exercise in resilience. Your inner critic will have plenty to say about your creative efforts. Learning to create anyway is powerful training for life. The physical challenge. Taking on physical challenges, whether it's a new exercise routine, training for a race, or learning a sport, provides direct experience with pushing through discomfort and resistance. The voice that says stop during a difficult workout is the same voice that says quit in other areas of life. The learning curve. Deliberately putting yourself in situations where you're a beginner again is excellent resilience training. Whether it's learning a language, taking up an instrument, or developing a new professional skill, the experience of being bad at something before getting good at it teaches you that discomfort and confusion are temporary states, not permanent limitations. The Resilience Toolkit. As you begin to recognize your inner critic and understand its patterns, you need practical tools for responding to it. These aren't one-time solutions, but ongoing practices that strengthen your mental resilience over time. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. When you notice anxiety or the inner critic spiraling, Ground yourself in the present moment by identifying 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This simple practice interrupts the mental loop and brings you back to reality. The evidence examination. When your inner critic makes a claim about your abilities or worth, treat it like a hypothesis to be tested rather than a fact to be accepted. Ask yourself, what evidence supports this thought? What evidence contradicts it? What would I tell a friend who is thinking this way? The worst-case scenario planning. Instead of avoiding thoughts about what could go wrong, deliberately explore them. Often, when we actually think through our worst fears, we realize they're either unlikely or manageable. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? How would I handle that situation? What would I learn from it? The values clarification. When facing resistance, connect your potential action to your deeper values and long-term goals. Ask yourself, if I let fear make this decision, will I be proud of that choice in 5 years? What would the person I want to become do in this situation? The tiny step forward. When a goal feels overwhelming and your inner critic is loud, make the smallest possible move forward. If you want to write a book, write 1 sentence. If you want to start exercising, do 5 push-ups. If you want to network, send 1 email. Often, the hardest part is simply beginning, and any forward movement builds momentum. Reframing failure and discomfort. One of the inner critic's most powerful tools is its definition of failure and discomfort as things to be avoided at all costs. Building mental resilience requires fundamentally reframing your relationship with both. Failure as information. Every outcome, including those we label as failures, provides valuable information. The entrepreneur whose first business fails learns lessons that make their second venture more likely to succeed. The artist whose early work is rejected develops resilience and refines their craft. When you start viewing failure as data rather than judgment, it loses much of its power to paralyze you. Discomfort is growth. Physical exercise provides a perfect metaphor for this concept. The discomfort you feel during a challenging workout isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that you're getting stronger. The same principle applies to mental and emotional challenges. The discomfort of difficult conversations, creative risks, and new challenges is often a sign that you're growing beyond your current limitations. Mistakes as learning. Your inner critic treats mistakes as evidence of your inadequacy. Mental resilience treats mistakes as tuition payments for the education life provides. Every mistake teaches you something about yourself, about the world, about what works and what doesn't. The question isn't how to avoid mistakes, but how to make them more quickly and learn from them more efficiently. Building your support network. While the battle with your inner critic is ultimately an internal one, you don't have to fight it alone. Building a network of people who support your growth and challenge your limiting beliefs is crucial for developing mental resilience. Mentors and models. Surround yourself with people who have overcome similar challenges to the ones you're facing. This might be through personal relationships, books, podcasts, or online communities. When your inner critic tells you something is impossible, having examples of people who have done it provides powerful counter-evidence. Accountability partners. Share your goals and challenges with people who will hold you accountable to your commitments. This external accountability can help you follow through when your internal motivation wavers. Choose people who will be supportive but honest, who will celebrate your successes and encourage you through setbacks. The inner circle. Be intentional about the people you spend the most time with. If you're surrounded by people who consistently discourage risk-taking, complain about their circumstances, and settle for less than they want, their mindset will influence yours. Seek out people who are growing, taking risks, and pursuing meaningful goals. The long game. Building unshakable mental resilience is not a quick fix or a 30-day transformation. It's a lifelong practice of choosing growth over comfort, courage over safety, and action over paralysis. The inner critic will never be permanently defeated, but it can be managed, understood, and ultimately transformed from an enemy into a minor annoyance. Think of this process like tending a garden. You plant seeds of resilient thinking and resilient action. Some days you'll water them with good choices and supportive self-talk. Other days, weeds of doubt and fear will sprout, and you'll need to pull them out. Over time, with consistent care and attention, the garden of your mind becomes more beautiful, more productive, and more resilient to whatever storms may come. The voice telling you to quit will always be there, but it doesn't have to be the voice that makes your decisions. You can acknowledge its presence, understand its purpose, and then choose your actions based on your values, goals, and the person you're becoming rather than your fears and insecurities. Remember Sarah from the beginning of this chapter? 6 months after that first day, staring at the blank page, she completed her first novel. The inner critic was still there, still whispering its familiar refrains about her inadequacy and the futility of her efforts. But she had learned to recognize that voice for what it was, not the truth about her capabilities, but simply her brain's ancient programming trying to keep her safe. She wrote the book not because the voice went away, but because she chose to write it anyway. Your inner battle is just beginning, but with each small choice to move forward despite the voice of resistance, you're building the unshakable mental resilience that will serve you for the rest of your life. The fight isn't about eliminating fear. It's about developing the courage to act in spite of it. Chapter 2. The Power of Discipline. Motivation fades, but discipline carries you through the hardest days. The myth of endless motivation. Picture this. It's Monday morning, and you wake up energized, ready to conquer the world. Your goals feel within reach, your vision crystal clear. You attack your workout, tackle your to-do list, and feel unstoppable. But by Wednesday, that fire has dimmed. By Friday, you're struggling to remember why you started it all. This cycle plagues millions of people who rely solely on motivation to drive their actions. They chase the high of inspiration, expecting it to sustain them through months and years of effort. But motivation is like the weather, unpredictable, temporary, and completely beyond your control. The harsh truth is that motivation is nothing more than an emotional state. It comes and goes like waves on a shore. Those who achieve extraordinary things understand this fundamental principle. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They build something far more reliable: discipline. Understanding true discipline. Discipline isn't about punishment or deprivation, despite what many people believe. It's not about forcing yourself through misery or adopting a rigid, joyless existence. True discipline is the bridge between your current self and your desired self. It's the daily practice of choosing your long-term vision over short-term comfort. Think of discipline as a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you honor a commitment to yourself, whether that's waking up early, eating nutritious food, or practicing a skill, you're building this mental muscle. Over time, what once required tremendous effort becomes automatic. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When you repeat an action consistently, your brain literally rewires itself. Neural pathways strengthen, making the behavior easier to execute. This is why brushing your teeth doesn't require willpower. You've done it so many times that it's become an unconscious habit. The 4 pillars of unshakable discipline. Pillar 1. Clarity of purpose. Discipline without direction is meaningless suffering. Before you can build lasting habits, you must have absolute clarity about why you're building them. Your why becomes the fuel that powers you through difficult moments. Many people set goals based on what they think they should want rather than what they truly desire. They pursue careers their parents approve of, chase body types they see on social media, or adopt habits because they're trending. This external motivation is weak and unsustainable. To build unshakable discipline, you must connect with your authentic desires. What kind of person do you genuinely want to become? What legacy do you want to leave? What would make you proud to look back on at the end of your life? Spend time in deep reflection. Write down your core values and align your goals with them. When your actions stem from your authentic self, discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about expressing who you truly are. Pillar 2. Systems over goals. While clarity of purpose provides direction, systems provide the vehicle to get there. A system is a collection of daily practices that compound over time to produce extraordinary results. Consider 2 people who want to write a novel. Person A sets a goal to write 50,000 words. Person B creates a system of writing 500 words every morning before checking email. Who do you think is more likely to succeed? Person A relies on willpower and motivation to carry them through. They might write 5,000 words one day. When inspiration strikes, then nothing for a week. Their progress is erratic and unsustainable. Person B focuses on the process, not the outcome. They don't worry about the total word count. They just show up daily and honor their system. After 100 days, they'll have 50,000 words. More importantly, they'll have developed the identity of someone who writes daily. Your system should be specific, measurable, and achievable. Instead of exercise more, Create a system of walk for 20 minutes after lunch every weekday. Instead of eat healthier, establish a system of prepare tomorrow's lunch before going to bed each night. Pillar 3. Environmental design. Your environment shapes your behavior more than you realize. If you want to build discipline, you must design your surroundings to support your desired actions and eliminate temptations. This principle works on multiple levels. Your physical environment includes everything from the apps on your phone to the foods in your refrigerator. Your social environment encompasses the people you spend time with and the conversations you engage in. Your mental environment consists of the books you read, podcasts you listen to, and thoughts you regularly entertain. Start with your physical space. If you want to exercise more, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat better, remove junk food from your home and stock it with nutritious options. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow and charge your phone in another room. Your social environment is equally important. The people around you either support your growth or undermine it. Seek out individuals who embody the discipline you want to develop. Join communities of like-minded people working towards similar goals. Distance yourself from those who consistently discourage your efforts or tempt you away from your commitments. Pillar 4. Progressive overload. Just as muscles need increasing resistance to grow stronger, your discipline muscle requires progressive challenges to develop. If you start with habits that are too ambitious, you'll likely fail and damage your self-confidence. If you never increase the difficulty, you'll plateau and become complacent. The key is to start ridiculously small and gradually increase the challenge. Want to meditate daily? Start with 2 minutes. Want to exercise regularly? Begin with 5 push-ups. Want to read more? Commit to 1 page per day. These micro-habits might seem insignificant, but they serve a crucial purpose. They establish the neural pathway and build momentum. Success breeds success. Once you've consistently performed a micro-habit for several weeks, your brain begins to expect it. At this point, you can gradually increase the intensity, duration, or complexity. The science of habit formation. Understanding how habits form gives you tremendous power over your behavior. Researchers have identified a neurological loop that drives all habits: cue, routine, and reward. The cue is the trigger that initiates the behavior. It could be a specific time, location, emotion, or preceding action. The routine is the behavior itself, the action you want to make automatic. The reward is the benefit you receive from completing the routine, which reinforces the neural pathway and makes you more likely to repeat the behavior. To build a new, disciplined habit, you must consciously design this loop. Choose a specific cue that occurs naturally in your day. Create a simple routine that moves you toward your goals. Identify or create a reward that makes the experience satisfying. For example, if you want to develop a morning exercise habit, cue your feet hitting the floor when you get out of bed. Routine: 10 minutes of movement, stretching, yoga, or light exercise. Reward: a delicious cup of coffee or your favorite morning podcast. The most successful people stack their new habits onto existing ones. This technique, called habit stacking, leverages the power of established routines to build new ones. After you brush your teeth, you meditate. After you pour your morning coffee, you review your goals. After you sit down at your desk, you write in your journal. Overcoming the discipline destroyers. Even with perfect systems and strong habits, you'll face challenges that test your discipline. Recognizing these common obstacles allows you to prepare for and overcome them. The all-or-nothing trap. Perfectionism is discipline's greatest enemy. When you miss a day or make a mistake, the all-or-nothing mindset tells you that you failed completely and should give up. This black-and-white thinking destroys more progress than any external obstacle. The reality is that setbacks are inevitable and normal. Champions aren't people who never fail. They're people who fail forward. They have systems for getting back on track quickly after a stumble. Develop a never miss twice rule. If you skip your morning workout, don't skip it the next day, too. If you eat junk food for lunch, make sure dinner is healthy. This approach prevents single mistakes from becoming extended losing streaks. Decision fatigue. Every decision you make throughout the day depletes your mental energy. By evening, your willpower reserves are low, making it harder to maintain discipline. This is why many people start days strong but struggle with evening habits. Combat decision fatigue by making important choices in advance. Plan your meals for the week. Lay out your clothes the night before. Create templates and routines that eliminate unnecessary decisions. Barack Obama famously wore only gray or blue suits during his presidency to reduce decision fatigue. Mark Zuckerberg wears virtually the same outfit every day. These leaders understand that preserving mental energy for important decisions is crucial for maintaining discipline. Social pressure and sabotage. Not everyone will support your journey toward greater discipline. Some friends might pressure you to skip workouts for social events. Family members might tempt you with unhealthy foods. Colleagues might mock your new habits or try to pull you back into old patterns. This resistance often comes from their own insecurities. Your disciplined behavior holds up a mirror to their lack of discipline, creating discomfort they try to resolve by getting you to abandon your efforts. Stay committed to your path while being compassionate toward others. You don't need to preach or judge. Simply model the behavior you want to see. Over time, some people will be inspired by your transformation and ask for advice. Others will fade from your life, making room for more supportive relationships. The identity shift. The most profound aspect of building discipline is how it changes your identity. Every disciplined action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Each time you choose the hard path over the easy path, you strengthen your identity as someone who does difficult things. This identity shift is gradual but powerful. At first, you might think, I'm trying to become someone who exercises regularly. With consistency, this evolves to, I'm someone who exercises regularly. Eventually, it becomes simply, I'm an athlete or I'm a healthy person. When your identity aligns with your desired behaviors, discipline becomes effortless. You don't have to convince yourself to exercise. Athletes exercise. You don't have to force yourself to eat well. Healthy people eat well. You don't have to motivate yourself to work on your craft. Professionals show up regardless of how they feel. Practical strategies for daily discipline. The 2-minute rule. If a habit takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately. This prevents small tasks from accumulating into overwhelming piles. More importantly, it builds momentum. Once you start a behavior, you're more likely to continue it. The 2-minute rule also applies to starting new habits. Make the initial version of your habit take less than 2 minutes. Want to run a marathon? Start by putting on your running shoes. Want to learn a language? Start by opening the app. These tiny actions create momentum that often leads to doing more. Implementation intentions. Instead of vague commitments like, I'll exercise more, create specific if-then statements. If it's 7 a.m. on a weekday, then I'll do 20 minutes of yoga in my living room. This specificity removes ambiguity and makes it easier to follow through. Research shows that people who use implementation intentions are significantly more likely to achieve their goals. The act of deciding when and where you'll perform a behavior increases the likelihood that you'll actually do it. The power of tracking. What gets measured gets managed. Tracking your habits creates awareness, reveals patterns, and provides motivation through visible progress. Use a simple habit tracker, either a smartphone app or a paper calendar, to mark off each day you complete your discipline practices. The act of tracking itself reinforces the behavior. There's something satisfying about marking an X on a calendar or watching a streak grow longer. This visual feedback becomes its own reward, strengthening the habit loop. Energy management. Discipline is easier when your energy levels are high. Pay attention to your natural rhythms and schedule your most important discipline activities during your peak hours. For many people, this is early morning when willpower reserves are full. Protect your energy through proper sleep, nutrition, and stress management. When you're tired, hungry, or overwhelmed, maintaining discipline becomes much more difficult. Think of these basics as the foundation that supports all your other discipline behaviors. The compound effect of daily discipline. Small, consistent actions create remarkable results over time. This principle, known as the compound effect, is discipline's greatest promise. A 1% improvement each day leads to being 37 times better after 1 year. A 1% decline each day leads to being nearly zero after 1 year. The math is staggering, but the real power lies in the transformation it creates within you. Each disciplined choice makes the next one easier. Each day of consistency builds momentum for the next day. Each month of disciplined action reshapes your identity and capabilities. Consider the person who reads just 10 pages per day. That's only 15 to 20 minutes of reading, seemingly insignificant. But over a year, they'll read 3,650 pages, roughly 12 to 15 books. In a decade, they'll have read 120 to 150 books, placing them in the top 1% of educated people in their field. The same principle applies to any area of life. 10 minutes of daily meditation becomes 60+ hours of mindfulness practice per year. 20 daily push-ups become over 7,000 push-ups annually. Saving $10 per day becomes $3,650 per year, plus compound interest over time. When discipline becomes flow. The ultimate goal of building discipline isn't to live a rigid, controlled life. It's to create so much structure and consistency that you develop tremendous freedom. When your foundational habits are automatic, you free up mental energy and willpower for creativity, spontaneity, and pursuing opportunities. Think of discipline as creating a container for your life. Without a container, water has no shape and spreads everywhere, accomplishing nothing. With a proper container, water can be directed with tremendous force, capable of cutting through rock or generating electricity. Your disciplined habits create the container that allows your potential to be channeled effectively. Instead of your energy being scattered across dozens of competing priorities and distractions, it becomes focused and powerful. Building your discipline action plan. Now that you understand the principles, it's time to create your personal discipline development plan. Start by choosing one area of your life where improved discipline would create the greatest positive impact. Common areas include health and fitness, career and skill development, relationships, finances, and personal growth. Within that area, identify one specific behavior that, if done consistently, would create significant progress toward your goals. Make this behavior as specific as possible, not just exercise more, but walk for 20 minutes every day after lunch. Design your habit loop by choosing a clear cue, defining the exact routine, and identifying the reward. Start with a version of the habit that takes less than 5 minutes to complete. Plan for obstacles and create if-then statements for common scenarios. Most importantly, focus on consistency over intensity. It's better to meditate for 2 minutes every day than to have one 60-minute session per week. The daily repetition builds the neural pathway and develops your discipline muscle. The long game of personal mastery. Building unshakable discipline is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be days when you don't feel like following through. There will be weeks when progress seems invisible. There will be months when you question whether your efforts matter. This is exactly when discipline reveals its true power. Anyone can take action when they feel motivated. Only the disciplined continue moving forward when motivation fails, when circumstances are difficult, and when the reward seems impossibly far away. Remember that discipline is not about perfection, it's about consistency. It's not about never falling down, it's about always getting back up. It's not about having superhuman willpower, it's about creating systems that make the right choices inevitable. The person you become through building discipline is far more valuable than any specific goal you achieve. The confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself, the resilience developed through pushing past comfort zones, and the identity of someone who does difficult things, these benefits will serve you for the rest of your life. Every day you choose discipline over comfort, you're investing in a future version of yourself who is stronger, more capable, and more confident. You're building the foundation for a life of achievement, fulfillment, and impact. The choice is yours, and it's made fresh each morning when you wake up. Will you rely on the fleeting emotion of motivation, or will you harness the steady power of discipline? Will you be a victim of your circumstances and feelings, or will you be the architect of your own transformation? Your future self is counting on the choices you make today. Choose discipline and watch as it carries you through not just the hardest days, but toward the life you've always dreamed of living. Chapter 3. Turning failure into fuel. Every setback is a secret training ground. Discover how to transform mistakes and losses into powerful lessons that sharpen your mind instead of breaking your spirit. The ancient Japanese art of kintsugi teaches us something profound about failure and resilience. When a ceramic bowl breaks, rather than discarding it or hiding the cracks, craftsmen repair it with gold. The result isn't just functional, it's more beautiful than the original. The golden veins that run through the repaired pottery tell a story of transformation, of something that became stronger and more valuable because of its breaking. This is the essence of turning failure into fuel. Every crack in our confidence, every setback in our journey, every moment when we fall short of our expectations, these aren't endpoints. They're raw materials for building something extraordinary. The neuroscience of setbacks. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your experiences. When you encounter failure, your neural pathways don't just record the negative outcome. They also document every aspect of the learning process that follows. Research in neuroplasticity shows that the brain actually forms stronger connections when it has to work through challenges and adapt to unexpected outcomes. Think of your last significant failure. In the immediate aftermath, your brain released stress hormones like cortisol, putting you in a heightened state of awareness. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. Your mind was literally becoming more receptive to learning, more capable of forming lasting memories about what happened and why. The key lies in what happens next. Most people let that heightened state dissolve into discouragement. But champions in business, sports, relationships, and life have learned to channel that neurochemical cocktail into focused analysis and strategic planning. The anatomy of productive failure analysis. Not all failure analysis is created equal. The difference between people who grow from setbacks and those who get stuck in them lies in their approach to examining what went wrong. Surface-level analysis asks, what happened? This is where most people stop. They replay the events, often with increasing frustration, and conclude that they just need to try harder next time. This approach treats failure as a random event rather than a source of information. Deep-level analysis asks, why did this happen? This requires you to dig beneath the surface events to understand the underlying factors. What assumptions were you operating under? What information did you lack? What skills needed development? What external factors played a role? Strategic analysis asks, how can I use this? This is where failure becomes fuel. You're not just understanding what went wrong, you're actively extracting principles, insights, and action items that will make you more effective going forward. Consider the story of James Dyson, who created 5,126 failed prototypes before perfecting his revolutionary vacuum cleaner. Each failure wasn't a step backward, it was a step closer to the solution. He didn't just analyze what went wrong, he systematically cataloged what he learned, what didn't work, and why. Those 5,126 failures weren't obstacles to his success, they were the foundation of it. Reframing the narrative. The stories we tell ourselves about our failures shape how we respond to them. Most people default to one of several destructive narratives. The victim's story, this always happens to me. I can't catch a break. The incompetent story, I'm just not cut out for this. I don't have what it takes. The catastrophe story, this is a disaster. Everything is ruined. These narratives are not just unhelpful, they're factually incomplete. They ignore the complexity of success, the universality of failure, and the possibility of growth. Champions reframe their failures using what researchers call a growth narrative. The learning story, this is valuable data. What can I extract from this experience? The building story, this is one step in a longer process. What foundation is this laying? The strengthening story, this is making me more capable. How am I becoming better equipped for future challenges? The shift isn't about positive thinking, it's about accurate thinking. Failure is rarely as simple as, I'm not good enough. It's usually a complex interaction of preparation, timing, external factors, and specific skills or knowledge gaps. When you frame it accurately, you can address it strategically. The failure audit process. To systematically extract value from every setback, develop a structured approach to analyzing what happened. This isn't about dwelling on negativity, it's about mining for gold. Step 1. Document the facts. Write down exactly what happened, when, and under what circumstances. Be as objective as possible. Imagine you're a researcher studying someone else's experience. What would you want to know? Step 2. Identify the variables. List everything that might have contributed to the outcome. Your preparation level. Your skill set at the time. The resources available to you. External factors beyond your control. Timing and circumstances. The actions and responses of others involved. Step 3. Separate the controllable from the uncontrollable. This is crucial. You can't learn effectively from factors outside your influence, but you can learn tremendously from those within it. Focus your analysis on what you could have done differently. Step 4. Extract the principles. What general rules or insights emerge from this specific situation? If you were coaching someone facing a similar challenge, what would you tell them based on this experience? Step 5. Create action items. Transform insights into concrete steps. What will you do differently next time? What skills will you develop? What resources will you gather? What support will you seek? Building failure immunity. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is building what psychologists call failure immunity. Not the inability to fail, but the inability to be devastated by failure. This comes from systematic exposure and structured learning. Gradual exposure. Start by intentionally putting yourself in situations where small failures are likely and safe. Practice public speaking at small gatherings. Try new skills in low-stakes environments. Submit work that might be rejected. Each small failure builds your tolerance for bigger ones. Failure parties. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs hold regular failure parties where team members share their recent mistakes and what they learned. This normalizes failure as part of the process rather than treating it as a shameful secret. The failure resume. Create a document that lists your major failures alongside what you learned from each one. Review it regularly. You'll start to see patterns, both in your failure modes and in your learning capacity. The compound interest of learned lessons. Every failure you convert into learning creates compound interest in your personal development. The lesson you learn from a business failure might help you in a relationship challenge. The resilience you build overcoming a creative setback might serve you in a health crisis. The analytical skills you develop dissecting one disappointment will help you navigate the next one more effectively. This is why people who have failed significantly and learned systematically often outperform those who have succeeded consistently without major setbacks. They've developed a richer toolkit, deeper resilience, and more accurate self-awareness. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he founded. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television news. These weren't detours from their success. They were essential components of it. Practical techniques for failure transformation. The 24-48-7 rule. Give yourself 24 hours to feel the emotions of failure fully. Use the next 48 hours to conduct your failure audit. Within 7 days, implement at least one concrete change based on what you learned. The mentor perspective. When analyzing a failure, imagine you're explaining it to a mentor or coach. What questions would they ask? What would they want you to focus on? This helps you maintain objectivity and extract maximum learning. The future self exercise. Write a letter from your future successful self to your current self about this failure. What would that person tell you about why this setback was necessary and valuable? The skill gap analysis. For every failure, identify at least 3 specific skills that, if you had them, would have changed the outcome. Then create a plan to develop those skills. Converting emotional energy. Failure creates powerful emotional energy, disappointment, frustration, anger, sadness. Most people try to suppress these emotions or let them dissipate. Champions learn to convert them into fuel for action. Disappointment becomes determination. The gap between what you expected and what happened becomes a clear target for focused effort. Frustration becomes problem-solving energy. That restless, agitated feeling can power sustained analysis and creative thinking about solutions. Anger becomes drive. Channeled properly, the energy of anger can fuel the persistent effort required to overcome obstacles. Sadness becomes depth. The capacity to feel deeply about outcomes indicates how much you care, which is a predictor of how much effort you're willing to invest. The key is not to eliminate these emotions, but to redirect them constructively. Feel them fully, then ask, how can I use this energy to move forward more effectively? The long game of failure. Perhaps most importantly, understand that failure is not a detour from success. It's often the most direct path to it. The most successful people are not those who have failed least. They're those who have learned most from their failures. Every failure is sending you information about what doesn't work, what you need to develop, where the real challenges lie, and how to approach things differently. When you learn to read these signals accurately and respond strategically, failure becomes one of your most valuable resources. The Japanese have another concept that applies here. Nana Kurobi Yaoki, fall 7 times, rise 8. But it's not just about getting back up. It's about getting back up with more knowledge, better strategy, and deeper resilience than you had before. The multiplier effect. When you consistently turn failures into fuel, you create what mathematicians call a multiplier effect. Each failure doesn't just teach you something, it teaches you how to learn from failure more effectively. Each setback doesn't just build resilience, it builds your capacity to help others build resilience. Each mistake doesn't just improve your skills, it improves your ability to recognize and correct mistakes quickly. This is why experienced leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators often seem to have an almost supernatural ability to navigate challenges. They're not inherently more talented or lucky, they've simply processed more failures more effectively, creating a vast reservoir of pattern recognition and adaptive strategies. Your failure laboratory. Starting today, begin treating every setback as an experiment in your personal laboratory. You're not a victim of circumstances, you're a researcher studying the variables that influence your outcomes. You're not failing, you're generating data about what works and what doesn't under different conditions. This perspective transforms everything. Rejection becomes market research. Mistakes become troubleshooting sessions. Disappointments become calibration opportunities. Setbacks become strategic intelligence. The goal isn't to seek out failure, it's to extract maximum value from the failures that inevitably come your way. When you do this consistently, you develop something invaluable, the confidence that no matter what happens, you'll figure out how to learn from it and use it to become stronger. Remember, every expert was once a beginner who refused to give up after their first failure. Every success story is built on a foundation of converted failures. Every breakthrough comes from someone who learned to see setbacks not as endings, but as beginnings. Your failures are not verdicts on your worth or potential. They're raw materials for building the person you're meant to become. The only question is, how will you choose to use them? The ripple effect of resilient thinking. When you master the art of turning failure into fuel, the impact extends far beyond your personal achievements. You become a model for others, showing friends, family, colleagues, and communities that setbacks are not permanent and that growth is always possible. Your children watch how you respond to disappointment and learn their own patterns of resilience. Your teammates see your analytical approach to problems and adopt similar strategies. Your example gives others permission to be imperfect while striving for excellence. This creates a ripple effect that multiplies your impact exponentially. Not only do you become more effective at pursuing your goals, but you contribute to building a more resilient, learning-oriented culture around you. The path forward begins with your next failure. When it comes, and it will, you now have the tools to transform it into something powerful. Every setback is indeed a secret training ground, and you're now equipped to extract every lesson it has to offer. Your journey from failure to fuel starts now. The question isn't whether you'll encounter setbacks, it's how masterfully you'll convert them into the very force that propels you toward your greatest achievements. Chapter 4: The Unstoppable Mindset. Introduction: The Convergence of Mental Powers. The human mind possesses an extraordinary capacity for transformation. Throughout history, individuals have demonstrated an ability to transcend circumstances that would break others, to find opportunity in adversity, and to maintain forward momentum when logic suggests retreat. This phenomenon isn't reserved for a select few. It's a trainable skill set that combines three fundamental mental attributes: unwavering belief, disciplined action, and adaptive resilience. The unstoppable mindset represents the synthesis of these elements. It's not about blind optimism or reckless determination. Instead, it's a sophisticated mental framework that allows you to navigate challenges with strategic thinking while maintaining emotional equilibrium. This mindset doesn't eliminate difficulties, it transforms your relationship with them. Consider the difference between a tree that breaks in a storm and one that bends with the wind. The flexible tree doesn't resist the storm, it works with it, using its strength to maintain its foundation while allowing its branches to move. This is the essence of the unstoppable mindset, maintaining your core direction while adapting your approach to circumstances. The foundation: unshakable belief. Belief operates as the cornerstone of mental resilience. However, the type of belief that creates unstoppable momentum differs significantly from wishful thinking or positive affirmations. Effective belief is grounded in evidence, reinforced by experience, and flexible enough to evolve with new information. The first component of powerful belief is self-efficacy, the conviction that you can learn, adapt, and influence outcomes through your actions. This isn't about believing you'll never fail. It's about believing you can handle whatever results from your efforts. Research in cognitive psychology demonstrates that individuals with high self-efficacy approach challenges differently. They see obstacles as problems to solve rather than threats to avoid. Building this foundation requires examining your internal dialogue. The stories you tell yourself about your capabilities, your past experiences, and your future possibilities directly influence your performance. These narratives aren't just thoughts, they're the software that runs your mental operating system. When you consistently tell yourself stories of capability and growth, your brain begins to seek evidence that supports these narratives. The process of developing unshakable belief involves 3 key practices. First, conduct regular evidence reviews. Document your successes, no matter how small, and analyze what factors contributed to positive outcomes. This creates a database of personal capability that you can reference during challenging periods. Second, reframe failures as data collection. Each setback provides information about what doesn't work, bringing you closer to what does. Third, develop process-focused beliefs rather than outcome-focused ones. Instead of believing I will succeed at everything I attempt, cultivate the belief that I will give my best effort and learn from whatever happens. This shift from outcome-focused to process-focused belief creates psychological freedom. When your confidence depends on perfect results, failure becomes devastating. When your confidence stems from your ability to engage fully with challenges, failure becomes educational. This distinction is crucial for maintaining momentum during difficult periods. The role of belief extends beyond personal confidence to encompass your worldview about growth and change. Fixed mindset thinking assumes that abilities are static, leading to defensive behaviors when capabilities are challenged. Growth mindset thinking recognizes that skills develop through effort and learning, creating openness to challenges as growth opportunities. However, belief alone isn't sufficient. Without disciplined action to support it, belief remains merely hopeful thinking. The unstoppable mindset requires the marriage of conviction with consistent, purposeful behavior. The engine, disciplined action. Discipline transforms belief from potential energy into kinetic force. It's a mechanism that converts intention into reality, dreams into achievements, and possibilities into actualities. However, discipline is often misunderstood as rigid self-control or harsh self-regulation. True discipline is more sophisticated. It's the art of aligning your daily actions with your deeper values and long-term objectives. The foundation of effective discipline lies in understanding the relationship between motivation and habit. Motivation provides the initial spark, the emotional energy that drives you to begin. But motivation is inherently variable. It rises and falls based on circumstances, mood, and external factors. Relying solely on motivation for consistent action is like trying to power a city with lightning strikes. Dramatic when it happens, but utterly unreliable for sustained performance. Habit formation creates the infrastructure for sustained action. When behaviors become habitual, they require less conscious decision-making and emotional energy. This frees up mental resources for higher-level thinking and creativity while ensuring that essential actions continue regardless of momentary motivation levels. Building disciplined action requires understanding the habit loop: cue, routine, and reward. The cue triggers the behavior, the routine is the behavior itself, and the reward reinforces the pattern. Effective discipline involves designing your environment and schedule to make productive behaviors easier and less productive behaviors harder. Start with micro-commitments, actions so small that completing them requires minimal willpower. If you want to develop a reading habit, begin with 1 page per day rather than 1 hour. If you're building an exercise routine, start with 5 minutes of movement rather than a full workout. These micro-commitments serve 2 purposes. They begin the process of neural pathway development, and they provide immediate success experiences that reinforce the behavior. The concept of progressive overload applies to mental discipline just as it does to physical training. Gradually increase the difficulty or duration of your disciplined actions as they become easier. This creates steady growth in your capacity for sustained effort while preventing the overwhelm that often leads to abandoning good intentions. Disciplined action also requires systems thinking. Instead of relying on individual acts of willpower, create systems that support your desired behaviors. This might involve meal preparation on weekends to support healthy eating during busy weekdays, or setting up your workspace the night before to eliminate decision fatigue in the morning. The power of disciplined action extends beyond task completion to identity formation. Each time you act in accordance with your stated values and goals, You reinforce the identity of someone who follows through on commitments. This creates a positive feedback loop where your actions strengthen your self-concept, which in turn motivates further consistent action. However, discipline without adaptability can become counterproductive. The unstoppable mindset requires the ability to maintain consistent effort while adjusting strategies based on results and changing circumstances. This is where resilience becomes essential. The adaptive force, resilience. Resilience is often portrayed as the ability to bounce back from adversity, but this definition is incomplete. True resilience involves three components: the capacity to absorb shock without breaking, the ability to adapt and evolve in response to challenges, and the skill of transforming difficulties into growth opportunities. The first aspect of resilience, shock absorption, relates to emotional regulation and mental stability during difficult periods. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending that challenges don't affect you. Instead, it involves developing the capacity to experience difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them, to think clearly under pressure, and to maintain perspective during temporary setbacks. Emotional regulation begins with awareness. You cannot manage what you don't recognize. Developing the ability to identify your emotional state in real time creates the opportunity for conscious response rather than automatic reaction. This awareness involves both recognizing the physical sensations associated with different emotions and understanding the thoughts and interpretations that fuel emotional responses. The second component of resilience, adaptation, involves flexibility in your approach to challenges. When your initial strategy isn't working, resilient thinking allows you to experiment with new approaches rather than intensifying failed efforts. This requires overcoming the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue investing in a failing approach because you've already committed resources to it. Adaptive thinking involves scenario planning and option generation. Instead of committing completely to a single path, develop multiple potential approaches to your objectives. This creates flexibility when circumstances change and reduces the psychological impact when any individual strategy proves ineffective. The third aspect of resilience, transformation, represents the highest level of challenge navigation. This involves finding ways to extract value from difficult experiences, to develop capabilities through adversity, and to emerge from challenges stronger than when you entered them. Post-traumatic growth research demonstrates that many individuals report positive changes following difficult life experiences. These changes include increased appreciation for life, stronger relationships, greater personal strength awareness, spiritual development, and expanded possibilities for their future. The key insight is that these benefits aren't automatic. They result from deliberate meaning-making and growth-oriented responses to adversity. Developing transformational resilience requires reframing your relationship with difficulty. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles to your goals, begin seeing them as the mechanism through which you develop the capabilities necessary to achieve those goals. This perspective shift doesn't minimize the reality of difficulty, but it changes your approach to navigating it. Integration, creating the unstoppable mindset. The unstoppable mindset emerges when belief, discipline, and resilience operate as an integrated system. Each element reinforces the others, creating a mental framework that becomes stronger under pressure rather than weaker. Belief provides the foundation by establishing confidence in your ability to learn, adapt, and influence outcomes. This confidence motivates disciplined action and provides stability during resilience testing challenges. When you truly believe in your capacity for growth and adaptation, temporary failures lose their power to derail your efforts. Disciplined action transforms belief into tangible progress while building evidence that reinforces your confidence. Each successful completion of a committed action strengthens your trust in yourself and your ability to follow through on intentions. This consistency creates momentum that makes future disciplined actions easier and more automatic. Resilience ensures that the inevitable challenges and setbacks don't break the system. When difficulties arise, resilient thinking allows you to maintain belief in your capabilities while adapting your disciplined actions to new circumstances. Instead of viewing setbacks as evidence that you should give up, resilience frames them as information that guides your next steps. The integration of these elements creates several powerful mental shifts. First, you develop outcome independence, the ability to pursue goals with full commitment while remaining emotionally detached from specific results. This paradox of caring deeply about your efforts while holding lightly to outcomes reduces performance anxiety and increases creative problem solving. Second, you develop process confidence, trust in your ability to navigate challenges regardless of their specific nature. This confidence doesn't depend on knowing exactly how to solve every problem, but on trusting your capacity to learn, adapt, and persist until solutions emerge. Third, you develop anti-fragility, a characteristic of becoming stronger through stress and challenge. Unlike resilience, which returns you to your previous state after difficulty, anti-fragility uses challenge as a catalyst for improvement. The unstoppable mindset doesn't just survive difficulties, it feeds on them. Practical implementation strategies. Creating an unstoppable mindset requires deliberate practice and systematic development. The following strategies provide concrete methods for building each component and integrating them into your daily experience. For belief development, implement a daily evidence collection practice. Each evening, record 3 pieces of evidence that support your capability and growth potential. These might include skills you used, challenges you navigated, or progress you made toward your objectives. Over time, this practice creates a comprehensive database of personal capability that you can reference during moments of doubt. Develop a failure reframing protocol. When setbacks occur, ask 3 questions. What can I learn from this experience? How can I use this information to improve my approach? What evidence does this provide about my willingness to take risks and push boundaries? This systematic approach transforms failures from evidence of inadequacy into proof of your commitment to growth. For discipline building, start with keystone habits, small behaviors that naturally lead to other positive actions. Morning routines often serve this function, creating momentum that carries throughout the day. Choose one simple action you can commit to performing consistently for 30 days, then gradually build additional habits around this foundation. Create implementation intentions for your most important disciplined actions. Instead of vague commitments like, "I will exercise more," create specific if-then statements. If it is Tuesday at 6 a.m., then I will do 20 minutes of strength training in my living room. These specific intentions reduce decision fatigue and increase follow-through rates. For resilience development, practice cognitive reframing exercises. When faced with challenges, consciously generate multiple interpretations of the situation. This mental flexibility prevents you from becoming locked into limiting perspectives and maintains your problem-solving capacity during difficult periods. Develop stress inoculation practices. Deliberately expose yourself to manageable challenges that build your confidence in handling difficulty. This might involve cold showers, public speaking, or learning complex skills. The key is choosing challenges that stretch your capabilities without overwhelming them. Advanced mindset techniques. As your unstoppable mindset develops, you can incorporate more sophisticated mental strategies that accelerate growth and deepen resilience. Visualization practices become more powerful when combined with implementation planning. Instead of simply imagining successful outcomes, mentally rehearse the process of overcoming obstacles and adapting to unexpected challenges. This mental simulation prepares your nervous system for real-world difficulties and increases confidence in your ability to handle them. Develop metacognitive awareness, thinking about thinking. Monitor your thought patterns, emotional responses, and behavioral tendencies during different situations. This higher-level awareness allows you to make conscious adjustments to your mental approach rather than operating on autopilot. Practice temporal perspective shifting. When facing immediate difficulties, mentally zoom out to consider how the current situation fits into your longer-term development. Many challenges that feel overwhelming in the moment become manageable when viewed from a broader time horizon. Cultivate cognitive diversity by actively seeking perspectives that challenge your assumptions. Read books that disagree with your current thinking, engage with people who hold different viewpoints, and regularly examine your beliefs for potential blind spots. This mental flexibility prevents the rigidity that often accompanies initial confidence building. The neuroscience of mental training. Understanding the brain science behind mindset development provides additional motivation and guidance for your training efforts. Neuroplasticity research demonstrates that consistent mental practices literally reshape brain structure, strengthening neural pathways associated with positive thinking patterns while weakening those connected to limiting beliefs. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and emotional regulation, strengthens through challenges that require sustained attention and self-control. Each time you choose disciplined action over immediate gratification, you're building the neural infrastructure that makes future disciplined choices easier. The amygdala, which processes threat detection and fear responses, becomes less reactive through exposure to manageable stresses. This doesn't eliminate fear responses, but it calibrates them more accurately, reducing false alarms that can interfere with performance and decision-making. Mirror neuron systems suggest that surrounding yourself with individuals who demonstrate unstoppable mindset characteristics accelerates your own development. The brain's tendency to mirror observed behaviors means that your social environment significantly influences your mental patterns, maintaining long-term momentum. Sustaining an unstoppable mindset over years and decades requires understanding the natural rhythms of human development and preparing for predictable challenges. Plateau periods are normal and necessary parts of growth. During these phases, continue your disciplined practices while trusting that internal development is occurring even when external progress isn't obvious. These periods often precede breakthrough phases where accumulated efforts produce rapid advancement. Regularly update your goals and challenges to match your developing capabilities. What seemed impossible a year ago may now be routine, requiring you to identify new horizons that engage your expanded abilities. This prevents complacency while maintaining the growth trajectory that feeds the unstoppable mindset. Build sustainable practices that you can maintain regardless of life circumstances. Health crises, relationship changes, career transitions, and other major life events will test your mental framework. Having core practices that adapt to different situations ensures continuity in your development. The ripple effect. The unstoppable mindset extends beyond personal achievement to influence your relationships, community, and broader impact. As you develop greater emotional stability, creative problem-solving ability, and persistent effort, you naturally become a resource for others facing challenges. This influence occurs through modeling rather than preaching. When others observe your consistent effort, adaptive thinking, and resilience during difficulties, they begin to believe that such capabilities are possible for them as well. Your development becomes an invitation for others to explore their own potential. The unstoppable mindset also enhances your ability to contribute meaningfully to causes and organizations you care about. Whether in professional settings, community organizations, or personal relationships, individuals with developed mental resilience become pillars of stability and sources of creative solutions during challenging periods. Conclusion: the infinite game. The development of an unstoppable mindset is not a destination, but an ongoing practice. Each challenge you navigate strengthens your capabilities. Each setback you transform into learning deepens your resilience. Each disciplined action you complete reinforces your belief in your ability to follow through on commitments. This is what philosopher James Cars called an infinite game, a game played for the purpose of continuing play rather than ending it. The unstoppable mindset isn't about reaching a final state of perfection where challenges no longer affect you. It's about developing such fluency with challenge navigation that difficulties become opportunities for continued growth and contribution. As you implement these concepts and practices, remember that the goal isn't to eliminate struggle from your life, but to transform your relationship with it. The unstoppable mindset doesn't make life easier. It makes you more capable of extracting value from whatever life presents. The convergence of belief, discipline, and resilience creates something greater than the sum of its parts. A way of being that remains stable during uncertainty, creative during constraints, and optimistic during adversity. This is the gift you give not only to yourself, but to everyone whose life you touch. Your unstoppable mindset becomes a beacon of possibility, demonstrating that human beings can thrive under almost any circumstances when equipped with the right mental frameworks and consistent practices. In a world that often emphasizes limitations and obstacles, you become living proof of what's possible when the human spirit is properly trained and directed. The journey continues with each choice you make, each challenge you embrace, and each moment you decide to grow rather than retreat. The unstoppable mindset awaits your commitment to its development.